Are we on? Two, three. Oh, good, okay. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. They're out. We do have a quorum, so we're good, we're good. I call the October 5th, 2023 meeting to order. First, we'll have the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Blakelock,
Here. Oops. I'm sorry, did you say Blaylock?
Yes.
Sorry. You're here.
Here.
Commissioner Dodd not present today. Commissioner Gratitor, Commissioner Levine not here today. Commissioner Rothbach,
Here.
and Chairperson Brightcroft.
Here. Okay, we will turn to the minutes of September 7th. I'll entertain a motion to approve, and then we can discuss.
I move that we approve the minutes from September 7th.
I second. You second?
Is there any discussion, any changes, comments, thoughts? Okay, we'll have the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Any visitors wishing to address the Plan Commission?
On a matter other than what's on the
matter
agenda.
Other than what's on the agenda? See none. So we will turn to new business, which is a hearing to amend the special use for Colonial Court Shopping Center to authorize a restaurant to serve as a licensed establishment that operates video gaming terminals. Bruce, do you have some
Yeah,
introductory
just
remarks?
a little bit of an introduction for those on the Plan Commission and in the audience. Colonial Court Shopping Center is governed by a special use ordinance dating from 1979. It's been amended 5 or 6 times. The various uses at the shopping center are listed in the special use ordinance. If you look in your package, I think we provided a list of the current uses which are allowed in the shopping center. There are about 50 enumerated uses. And the custom has been that when a new use arrives that's not one of the current uses or similar to one of the current uses that's in the special use, the requirement is that we amend the special use. Under our village code, under state law, when you amend the special use, you have to have a hearing in the same manner as when you first granted the special use. So prior to tonight's hearing, we published a notice of the hearing in the Daily Herald. A copy of the notice is in your package. We mailed notice to residents within 300 feet of Colonial Court Shopping Center, and we put a sign on the property. We posted a sign in keeping with our requirements for public hearings. The subject matter tonight is the ability to have video gaming, which is possible under the state law. In this case, the video gaming would take place inside the Brunch Factory restaurant. The village has only allowed video gaming one other time in the village. That was at the Shops of Riverwoods Shopping Center. That shopping center is governed by a different special use, but again, there was a hearing in that case to allow video gaming to occur in the Shops of Riverwoods. But that hearing and that ordinance doesn't affect Colonial Court, so here we are again. When that ordinance was passed, the village board expressed some concern that maybe we should delay waiting on any other video gaming establishments. And it's been longer than we thought that that establishment hasn't opened yet, although I believe they've taken out a building permit to finally improve the space. And the applicant before us tonight had appeared before the village board and said he'd really like to have video gaming at the Brunch Factory. And the board said, it's been a long time, we shouldn't make you wait any longer, we're willing to consider it, but you have to go through the process. Well, the process is coming back before the Plan Commission, hence we published notice and mailed and did all those things. So the staff memo gives you the background of the other uses that are allowed. It gives you the actual wording for a possible text amendment. The wording for this text amendment is, it essentially mirrors the way that if you look at the list of uses, it mirrors the types of other uses that we have, except in this case, it would allow video gaming within a standalone restaurant at Colonial Court. Since there's only one standalone restaurant building at Colonial Court, the intent of the proposed text amendment is to only allow video gaming at that one location of Colonial Court. If another location of Colonial Court wanted to have video gaming as a zoning matter, it would have to come to the board, and we'd have to consider amending the special use again. Just to remind the Plan Commission that what we're doing is considering a change to zoning, which would allow for the opportunity of video gaming in a standalone restaurant at Colonial Court. Whether or not, if the Plan Commission recommends approval and it goes to the village board, the issue is still one of zoning only. The village board then has a separate decision to make as to whether or not it wants to authorize a video gaming license for this particular business, and whether it wants to issue an additional liquor license. Each video gaming establishment has to have the ability to serve liquor. The liquor license that applies to the Brunch Factory does not authorize serving liquor in part of a restaurant that's used for video gaming. So we actually need a different liquor license to cover that, as we did authorize for the one in shops. So the village board has several decisions to make beyond the zoning. The zoning is the floor, if you will, the precondition. You can't really consider a video gaming establishment if there's no zoning for it, but then the board would still have the ability to say, no, it doesn't want to issue another license for this, or doesn't, or a video gaming terminal license for it. So that's the background. I think the staff memo gives you some of this information. In terms of staff concerns, I think one of the things that we have to talk about with any change in zoning at Colonial Court or shops going forward is what the impact of the widening of Deerfield Road is on the operations. There's a excerpt from the map that Lake County has prepared here that shows that a total of 20 parking spaces will be lost from, I guess, the east side of the row of parking just south of the restaurant, another 5 on the other side. I think it's a total of 25 parking spaces. There's a site plan that was used to authorize Colonial Court that gives you the parking layout. And one of the issues that staff raises is that when you have a plan for parking facilities and you're asking for a rezoning, it's reasonable to ask for an update of a parking plan to show how the parking will be managed when you're changing the zoning. In this particular case, with the loss of parking pretty much assured once the widening takes place, the question is, what would be the impact of video gaming, which would have 6 terminals? If the terminals are full, you have, at least 6, maybe 6 spaces being taken up. What's the impact of that on the operation of the restaurant? What else could be done to improve the parking situation for the restaurant? The village has worked with its village planner to provide one idea of how to partially reconfigure the parking areas in the parking lot, reducing the drive-through lanes that the bank has. The bank has said that they would agree to that. But we're really waiting on action from the owner of the center as to what they intend to do to address the impact and the loss of parking. We think this is an issue that still needs to be raised in connection with any zoning application at the center, because we don't have any answers for that at the moment. So that's an introduction. With that, I would invite the applicants to begin their presentation.
Got it. Can you hear me now? Perfect. Again, my name is Nick Fatikas, and I'm an attorney with the law offices of Sam Banks, with offices at 221 North LaSalle Street in Chicago. With me tonight are Mr. Dimitri Bahoutsas on behalf of the applicant, and Mr. Sam Fakori on behalf of Gaming Productions LLC. Now, the applicant, the Brunch Factory, is seeking a special use to permit video gaming in its restaurant location with the addresses of 1111 North Milwaukee Avenue in Riverwoods. The property is, as council stated, the property is located in the Colonial Court Shopping Center, and staff confirmed that it operates pursuant to that original 1976 special use approval that has been amended from time to time since then. The Brunch Factory is a full-service restaurant that focuses its menu on breakfast and lunch offerings. The business currently operates with a food establishment license and a restaurant liquor license. The restaurant occupies a one-story building that contains approximately 6,300 square feet of total floor area. And Dimitri is proposing to carve out approximately 1,000 square feet of that existing space and use it again for the video gaming purposes. Based on the size of the game room and the applicable state of Illinois rules and regulations for video gaming, only 6 video gaming machines can be installed at the property. Now, in terms of operations, the Brunch Factory will continue to operate as a full-service restaurant 7 days a week between the hours of 7 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. If approved, the game room would operate Sunday through Thursday between 11 a.m. and 10:30 p.m., and on Fridays and Saturdays between 11 a.m. and 1 a.m. And during that time, the game room's operating, a limited menu offering would be made to the customers or guests of the game room, but the restaurant would otherwise remain closed. Now, in our review with staff, again, which council gave an overview for, obviously parking has become a bit of a talking point and a focal point of our application. As we stand here today, the Brunch Factory has a 265-person capacity. The shopping center parking lot contains approximately 125 parking spaces, and those spaces are shared by all of the retail tenants. On a typical weekend morning, which are the Brunch Factory's busier times, about 40 of the spaces are used by its customers. Again, the game room would only offer the 6 player positions in total, so any new impact we believe would be absorbed by the current parking conditions. We are also aware of the Deerfield Road improvement or expansion plan, and as council stated, we'd likely lose somewhere between 20 and 25 parking spaces. We still believe that based on the offsetting hours of operation between the restaurant and the game room, and again, there being only 6 total machines in the game room, that with 100 remaining parking spaces, we'll more than be able to meet our demand. We also, again, it ultimately is a decision that needs to be made by the property owner, not our applicant, but we, of course, would be willing to cooperate and work with the neighbors, our property owner, and the village on a plan to add or improve the parking layout at the property. Before I conclude, I do want to reference that the applicant provided a narrative and addressed the special use standards in its application. I don't want to be redundant. It's part of, I believe, the packet that's in front of you. And of course, our team is available to answer any questions that the board members might have about the proposal. Thank you again.
Questions?
So if I understand right, the restaurant's operating until 2:30, and then that's going to close, and the gaming is going to continue into the evening?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And how is it, is the restaurant going to have a physical barrier? I mean,
So
how's it
there-
going to be divided out?
So we did propose doors, and it is, we just talked about it. If you could pull up the floor plan, the next one, please. So, and I may have my directions. If you could maybe take the mouse to the top left corner, that's the video gaming left, please. There you go. So that's the video gaming area that'll have its own wall and it'll have its own doorway. So it'll be essentially separated or segregated. It'll be within the same space. It doesn't require any new construction, but it'll be reworked to accommodate the games. The restaurant, though, the sit-down portion of the restaurant will be there'll be no access for customers at that time.
Okay, and liquor is served only in that area then?
So, and that's a question that we've been discussing with staff as well. Currently, liquor's provided through a restaurant liquor license, and I don't want to misstate the classification, but currently it's think of it as almost like an incidental liquor license, incidental to the restaurant activity.
A license that says you have to provide it with
restaurant.
food.
Exactly.
Right.
If we are approved for special use, we'll be required to work with the village to obtain a different class of liquor license called a terminal operator license that'll allow for the sale of liquor specifically in that space. And that's actually to comply with the Illinois statute that requires a liquor license for the gaming component. In addition to that, we wanted to add a limited food offer so that customers or guests in the game room would also be able to order, whether it's a hamburger, just a more limited menu, not the full menu that's typically there.
Okay, okay. The restrooms, I know where the restrooms are there. How restaurant customers get there by going through the gaming area?
Well, so there's essentially a bar within, proposed that rectangle in the gaming room is essentially a bar.
Right.
So folks that are in the restaurant during normal operating hours would just walk past it. They wouldn't have to necessarily walk through it. They'd walk past it on the side.
Okay, and that's,
Meaning you wouldn't have to cross in front of the games to get to the bathroom. That's why we propose to kind of continue that hallway or walkway to get to the restrooms on the right side of the hall.
right, and that's sufficient to keep minors from getting to the
Yes, absolutely.
gaming area?
Absolutely.
Is that door by the patio that you're going to be coming in? Like, because I'm thinking of the bar, and then when you look at the patio from the front, is that where the door is going to be, somewhere around there?
So there is obviously the door, so there's a main entrance, which you see to the left.
Can we ask you to like come to the microphone and tell us your name so we have it for the record?
State your name, who you are.
Demetrius Mahutos, I'm the owner of Brunch Factory. So basically, the double doors that you see at the exterior of the building there on the left. Right there, yep. So basically what's going on here is that we have the main doors that go into the restaurant, and then to the left of the main doors is what enters into the bar room, video game room.
Okay, that's where the door's going to be, okay.
So there would be terminals on, that would be the west wall and the north wall, like 3 on each wall, is that the idea?
So all video gaming would be on that wall right there,
The
where
one
the
that-
mouse is, yep,
Oh, that's the north wall.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
So in effect, when people are going to the restroom, they'll be staring at the video terminals.
They'll walk straight toward the terminals and then make a right to go into the restrooms and then walk back.
Right.
But they won't,
I mean,
they
just
won't cross
so
in
I
front.
understand, I mean, they'll, as they walk down the hall, they'll see the row of terminals.
Yes, yes.
Okay, excuse me. My kids are grown, my grandkids are not, and I can tell you that they're not going to walk down the thing and make a right turn. There are kids, and this is a restaurant that caters to families with children. And you're going to have kids all over those machines. There is no way you have any barrier to stop them from doing that. And I find that extremely concerning.
Sam, do you want to?
May I approach?
Sure.
So my name is Sam Fakori, and I spoke before the board at the last meeting with
I was
Dimitri. I work with Gaming Productions. We help location owners sort of design and facilitate the game rooms. And to your point, just to speak to that, there are ways that we can separate that game room that would prohibit kids.
Don't see them here, and that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, so they're not affixed in the form of like drywall or anything like that. There are stanchions that can be provided to prevent people from going into the
Not
21.
kids, no.
I'm just giving you
Yeah.
all the options.
You know, it's,
Yeah.
it's concerning for me because I am not in favor of gaming in the village. However, I'm willing to flex.
Sure.
but I'm not willing to flex if I feel like it's a jeopardy to my citizens.
So the other option that was proposed to Mr. Dimitri would to be put up half wall partitions that are removable. They would provide 5 feet of barrier so that they can cover the visibility of the game room. And it's more of a wood structure than a roped off option. So
That
that's,
would be acceptable to me, but I need to see it.
yeah, we can definitely provide a updated floor plan, but it wasn't something that is architecturally, required for a building permit. So that's why it wasn't proposed on the actual floor plan, and that's why I'm speaking to it now.
And it is not necessary for a building permit, but I think that it is for a gaming permit.
And you said that you were
I'm
you were
willing
flexible,
to flex.
willing to
That
consider.
doesn't mean that I'm limp.
Understood. And I think if there was a condition to come from the Plan Commission that some type of separation was to be implemented, we're very comfortable with that. It's already something we've discussed. It's not something that we have any kind of pushback on whatsoever.
Okay.
Can I ask Steve, our new Director, Community Services, if he has comments both on a 5-foot high barrier there and on parking or anything else?
God, am I evil?
You might have to put your microphone down and get close.
Well, take them one at a time. The half-height partitions, yeah, is something doable. However, there is concern about how stable they will be if somebody bumps into them. So we'd have to review the design of them. So that would be part of the permit. They would go through a building review. I'm a little concerned over the claim that this gaming area is truly 1,000 square feet. It seems to me that that probably includes the entire bar area, whereas the true gaming portion of this is really along the north wall. What am I missing there? If your entire building is 6,000 square feet, 1,000 square feet would be more than just that area with the bar and the gaming area. So I guess what I would ask is, can you define for us the area that you're saying the gaming activity is going to be restricted to? Because it looks to be a lot less than what would be 1,000 square feet if your total building is 6,300.
So what we were trying to express was that the game room with the wall partition and the door, that segment of the building was, you're absolutely correct. There's only about 200 square feet that's actually used for the footprint of the machines. We wanted to just provide a little bit more context that there's a room dedicated to that use, as opposed to it being fully integrated in the rest of the building, or just the 200 square feet. We thought that would have been a little bit disingenuous. You're absolutely correct, though. The footprint of the 6 gaming machines is approximately 200 square feet along the wall that reads video gaming wall.
Well, I'm confused now.
So the
Let's
rectangle,
say at noon when the restaurant is open, are people from the restaurant allowed to go to the bar who are not using the video game machines?
the people from the restaurant would be welcome to use the video gaming machines
No,
during
I'm
those
saying
hours
if
of
they weren't
operation.
interested in using the video gaming machines, but would they be allowed to sit at the bar? In other words?
Absolutely.
So the bar is effectively part of the restaurant at that point.
At that point, and that's why we included it as the 1,000 square foot total. But to be specific, the 200 square feet of that 1,000 square feet is the footprint.
Right,
of-
okay, so, but in terms of restaurant use, a restaurant is not 6,300 feet less 1,000, it's maybe 6,100 feet. There's only a little bit really that's devoted to gaming, so,
Correct.
which may bring me back to what the parking count is, but, so the people from the restaurant will be using that area as the bar area, while people who are using the video gaming machines will be using the north wall of that area when the two are both open.
Correct.
Would the gaming ever be allowed to be utilized at the same time you have patrons in for breakfast, lunch?
Yes, yes.
Well, between 11, I'm just looking at their hours, if they start at 11 in the gaming area and the restaurant is open from
from
Until
7 in the
2:30.
morning until about 2:30.
So there's an
So it's
overlap
hard
from
to-
11 to 2:30.
Right, so it's hard to segregate gaming from restaurant when we're trying to look at the impact on parking, is the issue I'm making.
Okay, I'm agreeing.
And then the other thing that I would ask, if we get that far, is a little clarity, and if you don't mind if I use my pointer, but a little clarity for what happens in this area and what happens in this area for patrons sitting at the bar or tables on the west side, being a concern for how many people are at the bar and how much space we actually have for a clear exit path to get to the door at the vestibule. So if we get that far, we would need some clarity there and maybe some restriction as far as how big those tables are so that we can make sure that we have a clear exit path to get through.
Sure. So with the double doors that go into the bar area, as you can see that the bar countertops are there, there's no seating or bar stools along that walkway towards the bathroom.
But the problem that I've got with that is if I've got people who are trying to exit
That's all movable
the
for,
gaming area
Yeah.
and the restrooms,
Sir,
we have to go back into the restaurant activity area in order to exit through that white path versus being able to go to the single door at the north end of the vestibule. Right there.
again, we could be, those 3 circles above
Yes.
the door were just intended as a convenience. We could remove them entirely, and it doesn't change the operation. So it's something that we can. It's movable furniture.
Okay.
Can we go back to the parking numbers for a second? I wanted to make sure I understood what you're saying. There are 125 parking spaces in the center. And when you said that about 40 are used by tenants of the Brunch Factory, at what time is that?
So my statement was on the weekend mornings are typically the Brunch Factory's busiest times. And during those peak times, so call it somewhere between 9:30 and probably 12:30, 1 o'clock, approximately 40 of the spaces at the center are used by Brunch Factory customers. It actually works out well because the Brunch Factory's busiest times are on the weekend, and some of our other retail neighbors are not necessarily open or active as much on the weekends. Not all, but many. So there hasn't been a fight for parking spaces during those peak times. Now, of course, with that Deerfield Road expansion, there's going to be some adjustments that are going to be made. But because our full-service restaurant closes at 2:30 p.m. 7 days a week, we're only really accounting for the folks that want to go in to use the video gaming room. And again, with 6 total positions, we're quite confident that we're going to be able to handle those 6 or even 12 parking spaces. If you were to double it, and again, I'm just kind of making up a number.
So, all right, so if there are 125 parking spaces, that's before the loss.
Correct.
So there's 100 parking spaces to work with, let's say,
Plus or minus.
plus or minus after the widening, of which on a busy peak time, you think you would need about 40 of the 100 spaces.
On the weekends.
On the
Weekend
weekends.
mornings.
And with this user, with the new use of video gaming, would you expect you would need 46 spaces?
Possibly. We're seeing based on other, not only competitor locations, but also other locations that Gaming Productions involved in. The trend is that many people who are restaurant customers would also use the video games. So they kind of double dip, so to speak, in terms of their parking count. We would anticipate, so during the busy peak hours of the restaurant, I think we're generally anticipating less gaming activity for just sole gaming purposes. But when the restaurant closes, we're anticipating folks who want to come in and focus on video gaming to not have the congestion of the restaurant at the same time.
Do you have any information on how much vacancy there is in the center right now? Do we know?
I don't have that. I mean,
I believe there's probably 5 or 6 locations empty.
So, okay, so, if we need 40 to 46 spaces to comfortably, and that's the peak, do you have an idea of what your usage would be on a weekday at the restaurant?
It could be less than 20 during the week. I actually, by happenstance, passed the Brunch Factory on Tuesday of this week at about 9 o'clock, and I think I counted 7 cars total in the parking lot.
I mean,
So but that's again, school hours, so
Yeah.
families aren't probably, if their kids are in school, they're not probably running.
but you're not operating at capacity right now. You'd like to be fuller than that, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're hoping that this helps kind of augment it and bring in some additional business. Absolutely.
I mean, and part of what we're trying to figure out here is, assuming this was approved and we did nothing else, what do we do when the next use comes to us at Colonial Court, or the restaurant, or the other spaces start filling up? I guess you would say, go talk to the owner at that point.
Not necessarily. I think one of the unique things about the Brunch Factory as a business operator is its limited hours of operation as a restaurant. And again, the anticipated peak times, and we have, months, and you've been open for how long? A year. Almost a full year of kind of experience to know that Saturday and Sunday breakfast, and
That's your peak.
that's our peak time. So I think that helps offset the risk to other, what we'll call more traditional 9 to 5, Monday through Friday retail outlets. We're really not impacting them during the week. We're using the parking spaces on the weekend when most of those businesses, again, I can't promise it always, but many of those businesses are not operating at full capacity. Many may not even be operating on the weekends as a retail outlet.
I'll just say this too. That location, obviously, a lot of changeover, right? A lot of people have left and everything like that. And I will say I do go there every Thursday for a meeting, and it's nice to see that they do a really good job of really doing stuff with lunch and everything. So nothing to do with the gaming, but I just wanted to mention that because good establishment that's been very positive. So I wanted to say that.
Are there any plans for the future to extend the hours into the dinner hour?
Possibly. It's a system that seems to be, knock on wood, working right now. I think obviously we like a little bit of a shot in the arm, but it goes along with the additional costs and whatnot. So certainly on the table, but not a firm plan just yet.
Okay, thanks.
I don't recall what the hours were at the shops. Does the Plan Commission have any concern over video gaming till 1 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays? I don't recall what we did at the shops. I might be able to find out while you're thinking
I
about it.
thought we limited the hours. It didn't go as late as 1, at least not during the week.
It's not during the week. I think it's one on the weekend.
The weekend, I think, is one.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I have concern about noise, I have concern about traffic, and I have concern about neighbors at 1 o'clock in the morning. Because very frankly, I'm sleeping at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm not a neighbor. But there are neighbors who have kids and there are neighbors who need to, one is awfully late.
So with respect to the 1 o'clock proposed end time, we just followed what the state and then what the terminal operator liquor license would allow. Again, we're negotiable.
If I was just going to check and see, I'm assuming it would make sense to be consistent with our 2 video gaming to be open to the same hours.
No, agreed.
Wouldn't want to treat you differently or worse.
Right.
Unless I'm missing something, the 1 o'clock is only on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
On the liquor license?
On the liquor license hours.
Yeah.
And if it's the same hours as that, then other than that, the latest it goes is 11:30 on Saturday and 10:30 on weekdays.
I do have sorry. I have a question. Do you want to answer?
Is that what the other gaming company, we're looking that up?
I'm going to look it up.
Because I know we talked about the hours, and I thought we limited them.
Give me a
Okay, all right, go ahead.
So my question is, where do you feel a lot of these people are going to be coming from? Obviously, people who eat there, I can understand that. What about other people? What suburbs they're going to be coming from to come for this gaming?
Yeah, so I kind of talked on that a little bit at the last meeting, but because Riverwoods is uniquely situated around neighboring communities that don't necessarily allow for video gaming, we do anticipate that this would be a form of an entertainment destination for people from other communities to come in and game. To speak to the commissioner's comments earlier, I think it's important to realize that this is not, in fact, a sports bar or a nightclub or a place that's going to be playing loud music. The city has adopted an ordinance to allow for video gaming. They approved it for another location that has been, at this for over a year. I think Dimitri's demonstrated that he's a responsible business owner. He's invested over $1 million into his space. And with the failures of the businesses in previous years, I think it's a testament to show that what type of operator that he is. And if there is an opportunity to give gaming a shot in this community and to see what the impact is, I think that you don't have a better, more viable, respectful business owner than Dimitri to sort of give that opportunity to. And I know he would be grateful for it, but I think gaming is sort of an ancillary, business to his current business. And with increased labor and increased food costs and minimum wages going up, it's vital for his continued success at this location. And I think with your help, it benefits everybody. So I just wanted to speak to that point.
Appreciate that.
And I know that the 1 a.m. timeframe is.
Actually, I'll tell you what it says.
I'm sorry?
I'll tell you what we agreed to
Sure.
with the other location, 9 a.m. to 1 a.m., Monday through Saturday, and 12 a.m. on Sundays. So actually less than what you were proposing.
Right. So we would be happy with those parameters, knowing that we're actually starting about 2 hours later.
Sure.
Could you just maybe give us a little background of the company that would be, the terminal operator? One of the things you have to understand is to run these machines, you have to have someone who's actually licensed as a terminal operator to run them.
Absolutely.
Please give us a
So
little-
my name is Sam Fakori. I've been in the gaming industry for over 5 years. I work for Gaming Productions, which was licensed by the Illinois Gaming Board back in December of 2022. Our principal is a gentleman named Mr. Jim Banks. He is a zoning attorney by trade. He also is the chairman of Belmont Bank. And he also holds various real estate holdings and investments throughout the state of Chicago. The city of Chicago. He holds multiple licenses in various aspects of the business world. He's been vetted by the Security and Exchange Commission with the bank. He has his real estate license. Obviously, he's gone through character and fitness with the Illinois Bar Association. And he's held to a very high standard. Everything that we do in our company is obviously through following rules and making sure that we adhere to all of the procedures that are necessary to get our clients to the goal line with getting approved for video gaming. As a terminal operator, we have a license to purchase equipment from different distributors that provide various games. When we sign up a location, we purchase the 6 machines from these vendors. We establish a redemption terminal, which is called the M3T. And at that point, once we get the machines installed, we handle everything from service. So if there's a paper jam or a software upgrade or a computer freezes, for example, we send out technicians within the hour. In terms of cash logistics, we have our team pick up money, deliver money to the bank, deposit it. We handle all aspects of the gaming for the location owner so that there is minimal interference, if you will. In conjunction with that, we help them with any marketing efforts that are permissible by the Illinois Gaming Board rules. And we really try to provide a friendly experience for our customers as well as the location owners, customers, to make it a friendly environment for for people to feel safe, to be able to enjoy themselves and have an overall good experience. So that's what our company does. We currently have 10 locations that are operating in the state of Illinois. Everybody on our team that is involved in gaming has over 5 years of experience, from our compliance officer to our field operations manager, and then myself included in that. So although Mr. Banks is new to the industry, everybody on our team has been in gaming for quite a bit of time, and we're all very experienced in this industry. So I can tell you from that perspective, this isn't our first rodeo. We know how to run a good operation.
What's the closest location from where this will be?
So we have an establishment called Sally's, which is in Rolling Meadows,
Okay.
which is not too far from here. We have a big sports bar in Schaumburg called Westwood Tavern, which is not too far from here. We have a location in unincorporated DuPage County, Butterfield Market. It's a gas station. We have another place in Elmwood Park, Norridge. We have a location at Rosemont called Crust, kind of in that entertainment district over there. So all of our stuff is actually pretty much in the northwest suburbs. I'm a resident of Glenview. I've grown up in the North Shore my entire life, and I'm very familiar with this area. Got a family member that lives in Riverwoods. So, everything that we have is currently in this vicinity.
Thank you.
The only issue that I've heard that we are wondering about is what this wall would look like. Is the Plan Commission comfortable with considering this matter and attaching a condition to a recommendation about a wall like that, or do you need to see something more? How many options are there for a wall? I mean, what would it look like?
I have an example of one. I can show you a photograph of one that we've done at another location. I just need a minute to pull it up, if that's okay.
Sure.
Right.
So it's feasible.
Well, they said 5, I believe is what they
So
said.
I have a photograph. I can come around and kind of circulate it and show it to everybody.
Sure.
Let's see it.
Trust me, I can't see it from
Yeah,
here.
come over and show it to us. Let's see it.
So this is just an example of one that we've implemented at a convenience store. And you can see it's a half wall, and they decided to put the name of the establishment on there, and then like 6 inches of glass above it. But it's fabricated by a carpenter. It's a bigger structure.
And it's solidly,
Yes, it's sturdy. It doesn't tip over, and it's not anything that's flimsy.
got to be something bigger than that.
I'll show you a side picture. It's actually pretty thick. It's about.
I'm not
12
talking about thick, I'm talking about high.
Oh, high. Yeah, you can adjust the height as high as you'd like it.
Okay.
This one is about 5 feet.
Yeah, my grandkids would peer over that with no problem at all.
It's not a
And they
problem.
wouldn't even have to stretch.
The one that has the writing Lucky Lanas on
Right
it?
over here, yeah. You see it's a wood structure, and then above it is another.
I see. Thanks. Anyone from the public that is here to speak on this? We should ask if anyone here.
Would anybody from the public like to ask any questions? Commissioners, do you have further comments?
I've been thinking about this. So there's some, neighboring suburbs like Buffalo Grove, right? And like there's Continental, they have something like that. There's a place called Mystical Bagel in Bialy. And I'm thinking like, I don't know, just a thought. At Bagel Bialy, I think there's like a room and you go in and then it's surrounded and it has all the different things. So it's kind of like a door, you close it and that's how you get in. And I was just thinking, is there, obviously this wall, I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying to go build something brand new here, but I'm thinking, is there another way of doing this where we wouldn't have that concern of that height where a teenager or someone could see what's going on with gambling? I can understand where you're coming from on that. I do understand that. I mean, I don't see it as a concern so much, you know what I mean? But
It's tough enough that they're walking through the bar area.
right. And I know this
Not
place
only
because
are
I
they
go in,
walking through
I
the
go
bar
in this
area
place a
where people
lot.
are drinking,
So
then
I
they're
know,
going where people are gaming.
I know the bar area. I know what it looks like because I go there a lot and I
Bar
understand.
area too, because I've had many meals, many
There you
good
go.
meals.
There you
in
go.
French
But I'm not arguing with that. But what I'm saying is if there's a way of either, like you said, hiring a wall or maybe doing something where it's more enclosed, I would recommend that. That could be a good thing if you're okay.
And with cool appearance would be nice.
Yeah, and you can make it look really cool too as well. So,
We are wide open to that being a condition. I think having a little bit of flexibility with staff to figure out what best fits. And then there are, as I believe the commissioner stated, a handful of maybe options, whether it's retractable, whether it's permanent.
right.
Being able to figure that out, if it were, I want to just be clear for the record that if it was imposed as a condition, we're open to that condition and working in good faith on some type of screening element, we'll call it.
Okay.
I understand that there's a piece of me that's opposed to this, and I'm working very hard how not to be opposed.
I understand, and I'm trying to get you to flip.
She wants to be flexed.
I know.
I mean, I see this as if we can come to an agreement here, I think this would be fine with me. That's my personal opinion. But in terms of just how you do it, I just think it's just coming up with those specifications.
Oh, honey, I'm just an old grump.
No, you're fine.
So my question is, is there anything else in the way of evidence that you want presented? Are we ready to close the hearing and go into discussion?
My question at that point is, are we comfortable with the parking situation? Because I still have, I'm looking at a very nice drawing here that has fallacious numbers on it, which bothered me a lot.
Well, that was a concept drawing from 2 months ago by our own
I know,
consultants.
I know.
Right? Well, with respect to parking, I think the issue is going to be an issue for the center eventually. Based on the testimony here, the issue is not currently an issue for this user. I don't know, Steve, what's your feeling?
I don't know how you totally, foresee how this goes down. The roadway expansion is going to be at least a year from now, probably a year and a half. What you see today, say this opened up tomorrow, what you see this week and for the next year, year and a half is going to be totally different than where we are a year and a half down the road.
Sure.
Personally, I'd be more comfortable if we had conversation or if we had the center management here to respond to the commission and tell us what their game plan would be so that you could buy into it and do something conditional for that to occur. But we don't have that here tonight.
Well, maybe we should, as part of our recommendation, that there be some kind of screening for the machines, that the Plan Commission still considers that the village board should take a look at parking and consider it, as part of its deliberation.
That would make me more comfortable.
Sherry, are you concerned with being able to see the machines or being able to access them?
I'm concerned with both. I have wonderfully inventive grandkids, and if they see them, they access them.
Okay, because I would like to see something, sketched out or something more showing how the barrier is going to work, because I think it also needs to show how the people using the machines will access the washrooms, because that's the other issue. If we close it off going up the hallway by the bar, and it's going to be seen, because even if you put a barrier there, the bar is bar height. you're going to see them over the top of the bar. So all along the bar there, you're going to be able to see the machines. So,
And that's, so two points I'd just like to respond to on that. First off, again, we remain very open to finding an appropriate screening mechanism. I agree that closing it off entirely probably is not the best option because we want to be able to have folks that are in the gaming room access the bathrooms directly. The second point on again, the attractive nuisance, kids are going to congregate and go flock to it. At all times of operation of the gaming room, there will be at least one, if not two, people managing the bar so that if kids are walking in front of the machines or trying to touch the machines, there's supervision, there's people physically there to stop that from happening. So it's not as if the game room operates, in a closed-off space completely by itself with no employees. In addition to the restaurant staff, there's also people physically in that space keeping an eye on things for that exact reason, so that underage kids aren't trying to play, so that kids aren't in there poking at the machines, that 21 adults, 21 years over, are the ones that are actually playing the games.
But,
Estimate my 17-year-old.
so when you talked about enclosing, right? You just said that for the bathrooms. But if I think of the bathrooms, and I remember the bathrooms are over here, if you have it enclosed, you could come out and go. I don't understand why that would make a difference in terms of the bathrooms.
We were just, I think it was agreeing to the point that if we were to wall off that entire section, we want to try and keep some pass through. So I think we're saying the same thing. I may have
Okay, just
misstated.
want to make sure. All right.
And to the commissioner's point, I just want to add one more thing. I actually own a gas station that has a packaged goods liquor license and a on-site consumption liquor license. And in situations like that, we have kids come in all the time with their parents, they're pumping gas, they need to use the restroom. As long as the attendant is there and they're supervising what's going on in the establishment, and you're not selling cigarettes to a minor, or you're not selling alcohol to a minor, there's really a way of controlling who's in that game room. So to Nick's point, I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware, respectfully, that there are lots of businesses that do implement video gaming that coincidentally may have minors that are walking throughout that establishment or that business. So you're asking all the right questions. You have all valid concerns, and I respect and appreciate you bringing these up because they are talking points. But I hope that that does shed a little bit of light on some of your concerns. And the fact that, Dimitri runs a clean business and he operates a good restaurant should give you some level of comfort because he's very dedicated to his business and his customers, and he's very engaged with a lot of the customers, a lot of customers of which have asked him, when are you guys going to get gaming? We're excited for it. It gives us something to do. I think if there's any individual that I can speak on the behalf of that, kind of deserves this and would do a good job in not being neglectful in the implementation of this in this business, Dimitri would be a great candidate for that. And it speaks to his operations and the cleanliness of his business and everything else. So just wanted to kind of comment on that.
He doesn't have just one restaurant. He has a ton of restaurants that he.
Yeah, he's a franchisee for halal guys. He
Glen Park, I've eaten it. Can I address a question to you, Bruce? I know that there is another business within the village, which at one point was indicating an interest in having gaming machines in its business. Is there some way we can limit the proliferation of this so that we don't wind up with the gaming capital of the northern suburbs?
Well, actually, I think the gas station asked us, yeah.
Oh, the gas
But
station wants it
but
on the corner.
the way it works is the zoning underneath it has to, first of all, authorize gaming within that type of zoning. So right now, we only authorize video gaming at shops, and after this ordinance, it would only be authorized within a standalone restaurant building at Colonial Court. We don't, as a zoning matter, we don't authorize it anywhere else. So it's not authorized.
Someone came in and said, hey, you gave it to them, why won't you give it to us?
Well, we don't have to.
Okay.
Okay. We
That's
don't
what
have
I needed to
Yeah,
know.
we don't have to. Because remember also, especially when the board has to increase the number of liquor licenses, the granting of the right to serve alcohol and to issue more liquor licenses is a very, very discretionary act on the part of the village board. They retain a lot more authority in that sense than they do under just normal zoning.
And they're linked, are they not? The game
In this case,
machines and
yes,
the
they are.
alcohol? Okay.
You know, I just want to say one thing. Not that I'm partial here, right? But I do know Dimitri. I know he's been wanting to do this. I do know that. And I know he's been waiting a long time. And obviously, you know, with recommendations, I think we can make this happen from that. That's my personal thoughts. But
I'm kind of leaning toward maybe, which is a big deal.
So the last thing I would say on this is that, you know, you're trying to determine from a zoning standpoint whether the use meets the requirements of standards for special use, whether it can be conducted in a way that's not injurious to everyone. So this is appropriate, this kind of screening. But there's a secondary process. As I mentioned, the board has to set the conditions for issuing the liquor license. And they may very well look for drawing a design before they would do that.
right. That's true. Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Nope. We're good.
Okay.
Want a motion to close the hearing?
Yes, I will entertain a motion to close the
My
hearing.
motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Do we have a voice?
That's fine.
All in
voice
favor?
vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Okay, the hearing is closed.
Well, the Plan Commission, as with all special use requests, can recommend approval of the special use to the board, village board, your advisory, recommend denial, or recommend approval with conditions.
Okay, if I were to recommend, I would recommend approval with conditions.
I would second that.
Which, can you specify the conditions?
I want a better explanation of parking issues in the in shops. I also want to see a proposal as to how we can set the gaming area off from the rest of the restaurant and bar.
That the board continue to, you know, take the parking factor into consideration as it deliberates, but as a condition of operation that the video gaming terminals have to be suitably screened.
God, you do that so much better than I do.
It's a lawyer. That's why he does it. I would say approval with conditions, and my conditions would be just, you know, making sure that wall is good. I mean, obviously you have people watching, so that's fine. I feel good about that. But just to see what that would look like, that would be my conditions.
And if my grandson comes in, shoot him.
Would for purposes of the motion, would suitably screened do enough for you on that, or do you want to be more specific?
You talking to me?
You know,
Yes.
I can't be more specific.
No, I was
because-
talking to
Talking to
Carrie,
Carrie.
because he said you know, he wanted it to be something, but
Well, no, I was saying that, so the wall, right,
We-
whatever it is.
we have to write a motion that appears in the minutes, so I have to know what it is you're actually,
I think if I can interject, I think one of the things you have to make a decision on is, or actually two parts, maybe three. Height is a concern, and then the opacity of the wall. Are you looking for something that's just a divider? Could be solid glass, or you're looking for something that's a total visual block? Give us some guidance.
And that would be good parameters, I think, to add to that. Suitably screened, in particular, to look at the height and, I don't know,
Yeah, I think the
sturdiness or whatever.
sturdiness and the height would be what I would say.
And you want to make it pretty because the restaurant is so nice inside.
I mean, I would even say, to go a little further, and I said this earlier, but if it, I don't know if it's possible, if it was enclosed somehow and then you had like a door, I don't know how that would work. I would be okay with that too. I don't know how that would work, but
But would the parameters be sturdiness, height, possible enclosure,
possibly, yeah.
And
and
perhaps
appearance,
the,
and appearance.
the width of the area that is closed off, because if it's narrow enough, you're going to lose your claustrophobes who need to pee.
I think a total enclosure would kind of be hard for a space that's long and only 7 or 8 feet deep. It provides an element of being claustrophobic and it affects airflow and visibility and of the cashier to monitor who's coming in and out of the room. So although you do want a barrier wall, it could be a combination of a structure and a little bit of glass or whatever. I think an enclosed room with a door is not a good scenario for the layout of this particular bar area. So.
All right, appreciate that. I'll take that back.
So ready to vote? Vote on
So we
the,
have
on the
a motion by Carrie, seconded by Sherry, with the conditions that the video gaming terminals should be screened with sufficient height and opacity to keep small children from.
Yeah.
I thought it was a motion by
Her
Sherry.
grandson,
seconded by-
it was her grandson, she
Who was,
said.
Motion by
yes,
Sherry.
yes, first by Sherry and seconded.
Seconded by.
It was second by me, yes. But her grandson was the most important, as long as her grandson doesn't, that was what I understood.
Okay, so,
And, yeah, I think that's what,
Okay.
that was the main part. Okay.
all right, so are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, is this a voice vote?
Well, no, I think you take a roll call.
Oh, a roll call, yeah. Okay,
This is to recommend approval of the special use to the board with the conditions that were noted.
Commissioner Robach,
Yes.
Commissioner Gratiter,
Yes.
Commissioner Blaylock,
Yes.
Chairperson Brightcott.
no,
3-1, I think
it
it
passes.
passes.
Yep,
You
Okay,
have a call.
all right,
perfect.
let's move on to old business. Now we're going to continue discussion of the sub-area plan amendment to
Thanks
the
for coming.
comprehensive plan.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Just a suggestion that you might try and work on some renderings or something, maybe work with Steve on that.
Full color rendering so that you guys can
That'd
really
be
get a
good.
feel for what we're proposing to do, and it'll be in conformity.
Before you get to the board.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Okay, moving on. Continuing our discussion on the Walters Kluwer property and potential changes to the comprehensive plan. And I believe we have a presentation or a workshop by Tesca Associates. So we're all ears and eyes.
I saw all of the projects in the Glenview area. I didn't see the developments in Vernon Hills. I didn't make it up that far. Carl was telling me he saw all of them. He did a spreadsheet. He rated them. He ranked them.
Seriously?
Yeah, he grouped them by common and
Oh, my.
uncommon characteristics.
Wow.
Oh, you're an architectural design person? Let's go. I did mine in Northbrook today,
So
and that's where I
You
was.
saw some. Sherry, did you have a chance to see any of them? Okay.
I saw all of them, but I didn't
didn't walk there?
I didn't do a spreadsheet.
You didn't walk there?
It's all in my brain. I have notes. I have hand notes, the old-fashioned way. All right,
Michael.
Mike.
Hello, everybody. Hello again. I'm Michael Blue. I'm with Tesca. Lee Brown sends his regards. He had a conflict tonight. He had to drive all the way up to Wisconsin for a public hearing. So I'm very happy to fill in and take kind of the next step in thinking through what this PUD or Walters Kluwer's or whatever it's going to be is going to take the form of in terms of whether it's code or policy or plan or whatnot. What we thought we would do tonight is spend a little time kind of starting to build your observations from the tour or just general observations about these kinds of developments in general into some ideas of what development or development regulations could be, right? I say all the time that writing zoning is easy, right? What's hard is figuring out what you want it to say. And the code as it sits now, the PUD is specific to particular development, to Thorngate. You tried to use it for the insurance building. But there's some notions in there that really do merit carrying through. So what we thought we'd do is ask a couple of questions. And I'm going to take notes, and then we'll get it back to you, right? And we can continue to build on this. And what this ultimately becomes are the standards by which either the redevelopment or additional development of Wolters Kluwer or a PUD for the site or a general PUD are based on. So we don't have to worry about what it turns into right now. But what we want to start to do is build this body of expectation that the village has for the development, right? And
You want to come over here, then you'll be able to see better.
I thought this would be good so y'all didn't have to turn around and watch over there.
Julie, just sit at the table there, you can see.
If you sit at the table here, you might be able to see.
You want to be an honorary member of the Plan Commission? It's a big responsibility.
The day.
Actually, I can't even see if you can.
It's a heavy
move it up. I can see
responsibility.
it better.
So we thought we'd ask a couple of questions, right? Based, again, on your tour, and we're not going to go site by site. Lee kind of did that last time. But based on your tour or what you've seen with this kind of development, we want to ask a couple of questions. The first one here, you don't have to be able to see this, but is what did you see on the tour of these residential developments that you would identify, that you would think of as excellence in design or quality of site plan, which is kind of the, not the only, but we think a significant standard as part of the PUD standard. So let's start to identify what those things are. What'd you see that you went, I like that. I could see that happening in Riverwoods, right? So that's the first list we're gonna make. And then the next page is the opposite of that, right? What did you see that you're like, no, not a Riverwoods kind of thing. And then depending on how much time we have and our interest in continuing to go further, we've broken down some of those elements and thought that maybe we could get you to kind of dig a little deeper, right? So how do you define comfort of living? How do you define some of these standards that might find their way into a PUD? Does that sound doable and a place to start? Sure.
Sounds good.
I'm willing to volunteer and go first.
Oh,
I'm willing to.
you sure?
There you go.
What I liked.
What did we like?
I liked buildings in a scale that seemed to sit in the landscaping. Carl and I were talking about it. There was a lot of incredible landscaping in some of these places where the buildings were so nestled in the landscaping that the prominence of the buildings was secondary. You realized you were in a place of human habitation where there were homes, but the structures themselves were not screaming at you. They were wedded into a landscape, often with either mature landscaping, and also you saw water and other features that were incorporated into it. So it really, I think I would say kind of almost a Hamlet feel that was really special in a few of the places, and that I thought would particularly translate to Riverwoods, given our history with the way, some of the best homes here really nestle into the woods.
I think a lot of that is if the streets are winding, rather than just being straight streets that have lots of houses just chock-a-block next to each other. But if the streets are winding and if there's some contours to the land so that things are nestled into their environment, rather than just being plopped. Like there was one in Northbrook that was just, it seemed like it was a cornfield with houses on it. That was very,
I'm sure
it was very unpleasant. I mean, it just didn't feel comfortable at all, and definitely not a Riverwoods kind of a feel.
I think variations in the elevations and varied front entry doors, it was an important thing, and the features of the ones that we particularly liked.
So the second one was about being able to see the doors, is that?
Well, all the doors not being the same. Maybe one of them's up 3 or 4 steps, one of them's at ground level, some of them are around the corner.
But also more the front in that way rather than just the garages. We didn't say that, but not a prominence of garage elements facing you. And
When we get to the negatives, yeah, the garage doors will be.
we should say what we like.
Positives first.
We'll start with what we like, but
Positives first. I would say, for me, I'm sorry,
When you look at spaces of how far you are apart,
when you have a building. I think that's very important. And some of the places I saw were very nice. There was a lot of space. It wasn't like right on top of each other, some of them, which was really nice. I like that. I also thought that very welcoming when you come into the community, just very nice. Some of the streets were actually, I mean, I have some negatives too, but wide enough to be able to go down your car and bring it down and be able to even park. It was very nice.
The entries to these areas?
Yeah, so when you came into the entry, yep, some of them were very nice.
I think maybe adding on to that comment, particularly with the entries, the ones that seemed to appeal the most to me were the ones where you came off the street and you entered the entry drive and you didn't see any of the buildings.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you turn almost 90 degrees and you get a glimpse of the subdivision. And then you have to go a little further before you really get an inkling of what you're going to experience. And all of that kind of goes to where some of the other comments that have already been made is the projects that seem to entice me the most had an organic sense to it instead of a very rigid aspect,
Right.
where the buildings weren't lined up with each other. They curved with the street. Sometimes they curved with total disrespect to the street because it created these varied open spaces, not only in front of the buildings and between the buildings, but in back of the buildings. So there was none of this rectangular aspect. So more of an organic layout, not only toward the position of the buildings with respect to each other, but trying to get away from, the grid that Chicago was originally built on.
Yeah, and Steve, I think one of the things you're getting at is there's no defined lot lines per se. It's some of these cluster homes, they're scattered around this general area.
Can't guess where.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of these are
Versus looking at some projects or things that's fairly intuitive. Those projects seem to, where it's, the open spaces are there almost for everyone.
Right.
Right.
Even if it's a drive-by, you can experience. And it's only mine.
Right.
Develops more of a sense of community.
And some of the developments had very short streets. You'd be on the so-called Main Street, and then you'd take a left, and you'd be on a very short and winding street. So it was very.
Confusing. Some of them were confusing too, by the way. I got a little
Some places.
lost in some places where I was going.
It was very nice.
Are these the negatives we're talking about now?
No, this is a
We're talking the positives? Okay.
positive.
Were the short and winding roads, was that a plus or a concern?
Yeah, no, to me, it was a plus.
Well-
Because it was more of a community, more almost of being in the woods and, finding your way. And it wasn't so get from A to B. It was more meandering,
Well-
so that you felt like you were taking a path or something.
Mine was more of a negative because when you came into these little subdivisions, I remember one of them I walked in, I was right in a soccer field. I'm like, wait a second, why am I driving into a soccer field? So to me,
Oh, yeah.
I like that longer period where it takes me longer. Like you said, he was saying like you turn 90, whatever it is, and you're enticed by this. Oh my, this is beautiful. This gets better. Oh, this just gets better and better. I don't want to be right there when I drive right in.
No, but when you're in, if you're turning down a small winding little road, I mean,
Yes.
it's more like a Riverwoods kind of feel. You're on
Oh,
a
that's nice. Yeah, that part's nice. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
wooded.
I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but a lot of times it's talked about from a design sense as a sense of surprise.
Right.
Right? There's something out there that you don't know is there yet, and you kind of get surprised by it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. Surprised.
Yeah.
And I think one other to look at as well, with this concept of, is this my space or public space? Two of them that we went to look at really had this sense that as you drove by, you crossed this bridge and there's water features on each side, which are public space. But you look at the edge of the water and you've got balconies and decks that are right there, and you understand that it's private. But the surprise factor, the enticement is almost a sense of jealousy that you're looking at somebody who achieved not only the privacy of those outdoor spaces, but the public view of all of that as well too. So it's a feature that's shared with everybody in the community or everybody that's going through. Again, trying to get away from this concept that this is mine and that's yours. Has a sense of privacy, but it's out there for people to see.
Can't really tell whose it is.
Correct. You don't know where the public versus the private starts and stops.
You know,
And I think that that's a lot of what Riverwoods has got in the short time I'm here. This is a very organic layout. There's not this.
right. Cookie cutter, is that what you're referring to? Cookie cutter?
Differentiation in construction materials and/or colors so that you don't have 14 buildings that are all brown.
Yeah,
Honestly,
not
we
like
saw-
cookie cutter,
we saw-
cookie cutter.
We saw a lot of brick on some of them.
Yeah, too
and,
much
Brick,
brick, too much
stone.
brick.
Well, it was,
Organic
I
stuff.
couldn't even tell some of them were townhouses or houses. That's how nice they were looking. I mean, some of them, I'm like, this is a townhouse. This looks like a house. It's beautiful.
Some were beautiful.
Yeah, so.
Some were well thought out, I thought.
Well thought out is the word. I mean, that one's not down on the paper.
Actually, one of the areas I liked was Heatherfield, a beautiful area.
Part of it,
Heatherfield.
part of it was nice.
Yeah,
Part of
part
it,
of it was nice.
like
Part
there
of
were,
it.
there were three components of Heatherfield.
That's true.
Yeah, not the,
That's right.
not the red brick.
Sorry, you're
Not the
right.
red
There was
brick
one part I did, you're right. Okay, there you go.
The stone part.
One of the things was the visitor parking, that the places we liked had small areas of visitor parking that were well blended into the landscape.
And I like it when the post boxes, the mailboxes are hidden.
Yeah.
You know, not all sitting like lollipops on the end of a
Right.
driveway.
I also would love very much to see some piece of it be single story that seniors could comfortably live in.
I think we also, I mean, some of the nice ones we saw, what were really lovely, what you were referring to earlier, they private and public, but most of them had really lovely outdoor spaces associated with the units, whether it was a terrace, a ground floor patio, like the space that was available to them, even if they were sharing it in that, quasi-public sense, but they were lovely spaces where they were inviting spaces to be outside of your
Right.
unit and not simply a huge oval grass field that people are, there, as you went through Heatherfield, I got on one of the wrong places and it was all the single family homes all on their individual lots.
Right.
And for them, the open space was this great big, it looked like a place that was either a cemetery or a marching field. It was this great big area.
It's probably a detention basin.
Which would clearly, in some mind would say, so that's open space. We got that big lawn area there, but it was kind of graded in a bowl. It just,
Right.
I think you call that the green.
I don't know what that is.
Did we,
Only in the spring do you call it the green, otherwise you call it the brown.
was there a,
I missed some of the comment about the post office boxes. You said no lollipops, but I was writing and I didn't get the whole thing.
You take those ugly things sticking up every
Yeah,
20 feet.
hidden mailboxes or mailboxes on the houses rather than having a
Sticking in
mailbox at the end or a cluster of mailboxes
ground.
at the end of a driveway where they're
Right.
sticking up like lollipops.
Thank you.
so was there, Landmark, was that the Glen, I was trying to remember when I went to the Glen area, there was like, was that one of them?
A landmark was over on Happen.
And there was one I thought was near the Glen, or am I wrong on that? Or maybe I went to the wrong place.
You might have turned in the wrong place.
Okay, then I'm not going to say
That was
that.
more in the glass.
Never mind, that's good then, because one of them I didn't like. That was my last one.
Something you like, let's put it on the
No, I didn't like it actually. It looked like an alley. Never mind. That's good. Okay. I just happened to drive in that area.
I think low rise, definitely preferable. Low rise, yeah. 2 stories is max.
Yeah, two stories. Some of them had varying levels, so maybe they came out like 2.5, but
Yeah,
no,
but no higher than that.
higher than that. Yeah.
And I think the use of stone I'm just not a brick fan. I've never been a brick fan, especially not red brick. I mean, I think that red brick just sticks out in this one place. That would be a negative comment. It was just stark, and I'm sure in the winter it's very stark.
I have to say that as far as the number of stories and all, the courts at Regent Wood, the condo buildings were pretty nice. They had different levels and they weren't like boxy. They were pretty nice, I thought, although they were probably 4 stories or something.
Yeah, they,
Can I put down that a well-designed condo building, a low-rise condo building could be something that we like?
I didn't find, where were the courts of Regent Wood? Which one was that one?
The one when you go down Waukegan and turn on, what is it?
Winnetka Road.
And take an immediate left.
Oh, yeah, but that's,
It's an older,
those are
slightly
not
older.
4-story buildings.
The ones, when you turn, the ones on the left, they were 3 or 4 story.
These, the taller ones,
Metal? Which one are you talking about?
the taller.
That's the one we were talking about. You said, how would you get a fire truck in there, Bruce?
Yeah.
You're talking about metal?
No. I just missed that building as I turned in.
Yeah.
Once you go past that building.
What's it called?
There's 2 buildings right there, just right on the left. Yeah.
There was a Nero one. Was that the metal one? You're not talking about metal, whatever it was called.
This is the one he's talking about.
Meadow Lake? You're not talking about?
Yeah, metal, not metal, what was it called?
Regent Woods.
Regent Woods, that's it. I didn't,
You know what?
There's your picture right there.
yeah, I didn't like that.
I just missed that those were the 2 tall buildings in that development. My eye.
That's it,
went
Regent
forward,
Woods,
and I
that's it.
Yeah,
Thank
they
you.
were kind of
That's
massive.
probably a good thing because your eye
It was right off
directly
right off
on
Waukegan.
the road.
Off of,
Regent was the one where you come in off of Waukegan and go right in, right? That was the one we're talking about, or am I
You come
forgetting?
down Waukegan and take a left on Winnetka
Winnetka
Road
Road.
and take an immediate left
Okay.
into it. Yeah.
Oh, that one, okay. Gotcha.
Other things this is a great list, well done, team. Are there other things that jumped out at you as being things that you liked?
Cobblestone, brick paver was nice.
Yeah.
As opposed
Yeah.
to,
Pavers was nice.
I liked
brick pavers.
Although
stones.
there
I
were
liked,
places that had pavers that were bad too.
yeah.
Everything looked good.
I think a diversity of architecture is more attractive than all one kind of thing.
See, that's interesting because when I
Color,
looked at,
material, architecture, all of the
I
above.
looked at Meadow Lake, which is a Hovey
Michael, have you
development.
got landscaping down there somewhere?
That was up at the beginning. maybe.
It was
Good.
on here somewhere, but we can repeat it.
It's right on the
That was-
top.
that
It
was
says
really-
something about
maybe-
Landscaping.
Mature landscaping is
Mature,
a
yeah.
good.
Takes time for it to be mature landscaping,
How do you feel about
unfortunately.
this? I'm pretty familiar with the Meadow Lake development. That was the one in Northfield that was designed by David Hovey.
Is the optimal one?
It's the one that has underground parking,
Right,
Optima. It has
right,
underground
yeah.
parking. So it doesn't have what you were thinking of as a lot of different styles. In fact, there's a uniformity to it. But to me, it also had, because of the maturity of the landscaping, the absence of garages, aspects of it had a very homey feel, even though, and in some ways less jarring than sometimes when you get too much diversity in architecture, you get, some ugly things, some pretty things, some ugly things, some pretty things. My eye is sometimes drawn to, but I like modern anyway.
Yeah, I think what I mean is not a lot of different disparate kind of things. What I mean is a comprehensive,
That's related.
yeah,
Things that-
they're related looks, like they all have similar stone, but maybe they have their doors in different places or different kind of windows but there's some continuity in the design that makes it a pleasing overall design. And I thought that Optima was a very interesting, to me, it felt like a Chicago neighborhood. It was kind of urban, but it had a real neighborhoody feel, and
Yeah.
the landscaping was great.
Yes, it was. I liked it.
Yeah.
It had walled gardens and arbors and.
People were out walking. I mean, it was very human.
And actually, I haven't gotten to it yet, but those are the same people that did Coral Mandel in
Yeah.
Deerfield.
Cora Mandel is actually nicer than I remembered.
Yeah.
I hadn't been there in a long time.
That's a good list for now. Let's keep going, shall we?
Next page.
Next.
So I'm wondering if there were any things that you saw. What in your tour did you see that would not meet your threshold of excellence of site planning?
Almost everything in connection
Everything else.
with Northfield Muse.
Pretty much everything else.
I have to make a confession. I have to make a confession. I said almost anything having to do with Northfield Muse.
Yeah.
I have to make a confession. Mea culpa. So when we were looking at townhomes as a potential, I had seen these renderings, somebody had shared these with me on Northfield. Now, the renderings showed I didn't see the parking, I didn't see the asphalt, I didn't see, but the renderings were architecturally much more interesting than Lexington. And I shared these with Bob Hammer, who, is the architect who designed this building. I had tried to get some feedback from Bob, and he said, oh yeah, that's much nicer architecture than, right? It's got different size windows, different. So when I actually saw the project, I said, oh my God, this is terrible. Like the renderings were much better than the actual project. So number one, we should always go see something, because
Yes.
they had painted the trim white at the garage level. The whole thing was just sort of like overbearing, overwrought. And then I realized, first of all, that's a much denser development. There was nothing there but units ringing a parking lot. It felt like a dense urban infill situation in Chicago, where you got out of your apartment with your alarm thing in your hand and walked down to your car, and somebody was getting mugged over there, and nobody called because it was,
It was awful.
It was awful.
and it was incredible, but it was the combination of the uninviting architecture, lack of land. It lacked every one of those things that you have on the first page. It lacked all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Funny.
Yeah, it was horrible.
It was,
I couldn't wait to get out.
it was,
It was horrible.
And it was my lowest rated one. It was
Yeah. it was
number
hor-
16 out of
Absolutely
16.
horrible.
That's funny. I think I said this earlier, but the one negative of one that I went into was which one was the soccer field? Which one was that? That was Meadow.
Heatherfield ended in a soccer field.
Was that no, it wasn't. Was it Heatherfield?
I think it was.
Fox Meadows, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. You drive right in, you go around, and all of a sudden you're in a soccer field with a parking lot. I'm like, wait, what is this? This is not a.
You just took the wrong,
Yeah.
you went right instead of left.
No,
There's a
But
convent.
it was bad. I wouldn't like
It was
that.
bad.
I wouldn't like that. That's what I'm trying to say. Even if I got it wrong, which I did.
Sign that says convent property.
Too much fun.
Don't have fun.
Was it,
Nice.
so what was it that was bothering you? It disrupted the neighborhood feel, or it was incongruous from?
I didn't feel like I was I feel like here I pull into this, even though I made a wrong turn, whatever. Why am I going right into a soccer field? I mean, it just wasn't enough land for me. Like, it wasn't enough area of like how I'm coming in. Just right here I am.
It was a bad surprise, not a good surprise.
That's right.
Bad surprise.
Yeah, it was a
Bad
bad surprise. You don't want any bad
Don't want bad
surprises.
surprises.
Bad surprise.
And especially not when you first drive in.
If I had a kid and I'm going to soccer, hey, wow.
Bruce.
We don't want no bad
Not when you
surprises.
first drive in.
What I'm thinking is,
Good surprise is good.
Yeah, good surprise.
if you're making a development, you want it to grow on you as you drive through it. You don't want to be faced with a blatant mess of architecture.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true.
I mean, the ones that weren't as nice either had too much asphalt, too little of that blurring of public and private. Anything that just kind of reeked of traditional wrong-headed suburban, two-car garage house, big wide streets.
Lack of
I
green
think
space.
The example of that one was the last one on the first tour, which is very similar to something that we've all seen before, where you have the alley between the structures and the balconies look over, and there's not a stitch of landscaping because everything that should be landscaped was put with rock. So somehow they think that colored rock is acceptable. No landscaping for the entire length of the buildings, in between the buildings. And on top of it, a very urbanesque design, just a box that goes straight up. There's no imagination to it. And I think what really made it even worse, and it's bad, and maybe bad to say, but the color.
Yeah, I'm in the
Lack of.
third
Yeah,
brown building.
Yeah,
Dark white, I don't think belongs on a project that you're trying to make look organic because it does not, it just does not exist well. But combining the stark white with extremely light gray siding, it was just a horrible thing to walk into and look at, but I visualized some other plan that it's exactly what it's going to be. And the lack of landscaping on that project and the fact that all the visitor parking was on the far end of the rows of the buildings with nothing in between and no real open space the children could play or people could sit and converse or whatever. So you have this one swath that goes the length of the buildings that's manicured, and then you've got these alleys on either side of the buildings which look like
Ellie's.
an alley. And then you're going to wonder what it's going to look like when they start putting the trash bins out there too, and you go on a given day. It just,
I can tell you, the trash bins were out there today when I was there. They were.
Out there when I
hey,
went through
but
too.
I can only imagine what that looked like.
What color were they? Kind of, the gentleman who you're talking about, this whole auto court between two townhome structures or two,
Yes.
real close buildings, and it's just sort of, there's just nothing.
There's asphalt, and that's
Just asphalt,
asphalt and
right.
rock.
Yeah.
And
Too
that's all.
tall.
It's not beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just.
Buildings
wow.
that are too tall.
and I really don't like, and this is a pet peeve, I do not like seeing all garage. When you drive in, it's all garage all the time.
yeah.
The garages are right on the street. I mean, some of the driveways couldn't have been more than 10 feet long. They were tiny.
You know, I don't share all of your pet peeves,
Yeah.
but some of them I do. In Heatherfield, I remember there were like 3 different kinds of projects going. One area was the single-family homes arranged around the marching field, which was, I guess, the wrong turn. Then the other, there was a row of townhomes that was kind of red brick-ish, where there was garages in the back. I never saw where the garages were. Then there was the 4-story structure that looked like a nursing home. I mean, you got there, it kind of, it didn't fit with the rest of it at all. And then on one of the other streets, there was a 4-unit, what do we call it, a quad? It had 4 units and 4 2-door garages. So in the unit, you had 4 units, and at the street, you saw garage, 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 garage. That was housing 4 families. And I thought it was horrible to see because the whole street was this way. It looked like kind of like you're looking at a storage locker.
Right. That's what the last one in the first tour was, where they had one spot where there were 2 buildings next to each other. And there was literally 2 garage door, a man door, 2 garage doors, a man door, and you had less than a foot in between. And literally all you saw was garage doors on the whole thing. But that's what you're seeing when you're driving through because your eye is focusing at about a 4.5 foot level. That's all you're really seeing because you're not, looking upward at this. And then you have the canyon effect when you have multiples that you're trying to walk through instead of having something that's lower rise, more organic.
Well, another negative I thought was some of them were on like right by the main street. So when you would pull right in, you're kind of like the main street. So like if those people are there, they could hear everything. If you know what I'm talking about. Some of them were like that. So I feel like I don't like when it's so close to the main street. I like it way back.
Some of them didn't have a choice based on the selection of the property.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So
Right.
you have to sometimes work with it.
I
but
know.
Nonetheless, if you have an opportunity to have it set back, you would want to do that.
Of course. Obviously, you can only pick what you can. Exactly.
Those are better for the more urbanesque designs where, you have this front entryway that nobody on the planet will ever use, and it's just there for show.
Right.
It's kind of like having the furniture in the front room and it's plastic coated. It's there to look at, but it's not there to be used.
Right. Exactly.
What I grossly dislike about many developments is that they don't look like they're built for people to live in. People to live in needs walking paths, open space, places for kids to play, a place to walk your dog. It doesn't need regimented, every townhouse gets a 6-foot square piece of grass in front and 4 feet in the back so that they can have a barbecue grill.
That's the Glen, by the way, has that very cookie cutter, very close, urban living, very close, hate it.
My son was in a townhouse in
Don't like
Fox
it.
Lake when he was first,
Yeah.
when he came out of college. And that's what it was like, and it was
I
awful.
hate that. There's no creativity there.
You know, one of the things that Lee had said to me, and I mentioned this now, I mentioned it to Carl earlier, was that when you thought about what was nice that we saw, and when you thought about what was horrible, you never said to yourself, oh, well, that was 3 units an acre, that one was 6 units to the acre. You really didn't know what the underlying density
Right.
was.
Yeah. Right.
And what he was trying to say is the excellence of what you see is not necessarily related to just.
That's true. That's true, yeah.
I would have said that, because Lee and I have been talking about that all along, even before we started doing this particular project. You can have, the number doesn't mean quality, right? You can have really great design, you can meet all of the first list in a dense project, and you can have all of this in a not dense project, right? So
Right.
there's more to it than just a number. Now, the number will drive some of these things that we're saying that we like and don't like, but it's not a surrogate for one of these.
I don't think people generally would raise the density unless they really didn't like something about a project. I mean, if it's a beautiful project, even if it were somewhat dense, I don't think people would care if it blended in and was beautiful. But I think if it's really ugly and
If the result of the density is all you've got is this asphalt court, like you said you didn't like about the Muse, right? I mean, that's a dense development. It wasn't the density that bothered you, it was the benefits around this concrete court that presented none of these benefits of public space, or where to walk your dog, or, your own private space.
Kids riding bikes and whatever. It needs to feel, any kind of development needs to feel like it was built for families to occupy and enjoy it. And if it feels like it was built to get either the least expensive or the densest and not consider that, then I would never consider it.
I'm going to take a step back and go to the first page and have you add something to it. Cherokee.
Absolutely.
Nicer feature is when the storm water management system is integrated into the open space amongst the dwelling units in lieu of just shoved off in a corner and looking like an afterthought. That was done well on 2 of the projects. And then there are some that you just don't see it happening because, it's all taken to the sewer system or whatever. But having something in there as far as water feature, I think is a definite plus for many people when they're looking at communities or areas to live in.
It fits on both pages. Good point. Can we move on to some of the kind of specific ones, and what we had thought to do here, and this is a great list, thank you. We've got several of these that we'll see how much time we feel like we're doing, or we can move through them quickly, but we've talked about some of the characteristics, right? Think of these almost as the standards for approving a development, right? So strong and attractive sense of place, resident and visitor friendliness and convenient living, well-organized public spaces. That's what this list is about. Maybe we could take a few minutes and it's almost like word association, right? So I'll mention this characteristic and let's think about what it is, either what you saw or what you've seen in other developments that epitomizes that, if you will. Does that work? Can we
Sure.
track a couple of those?
Sure.
So if we talk about strong, attractive sense of place, sense of place is one of those words that we planners use. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. But when you think of the idea of sense of place, and I'll cheat. I think what you said about Viking and where people live there, that's what I think of when I think of sense of
That's what I
place.
think of too, is a place that welcomes people.
Community.
It's almost as if, are there amenities outside the dwelling structure that keep you in the community.
Exactly, community.
There's something for you to do in the confines of your own development.
I think of neighborhood in the broadest sense, the warm sense of belonging
And feeling safe.
and feeling happy and safe.
I think
Yeah.
some of these places, you might even say, because of the attractiveness of the outdoor space and the way it relates, it promotes interaction. We don't think about that a lot, but the
Right.
new urbanists
it
do,
does.
it promotes.
Yeah, I would even say like, I live in Thorngate, right? I feel a sense of community when I go into Thorngate. People walking around, their dogs, their kids. That's a sense, like you're going and you're feeling comfortable. You're feeling, oh, this is a place I could see myself living.
Yeah, absolutely. My neighbors call to ask how I'm feeling. That's a sense of community.
I need to fill each of these up, and there's a bunch of them, so I'll keep moving. If I move too fast, just slow me down.
Move quicker. No, I'm just, I'm joking. Go ahead. It's late.
Cool. So, resident and visitor friendliness and convenience of living, right? The circulation, there's paths, there's ways to deal with deliveries, but this idea of convenient living is one that I actually emphasized over the friendliness. What kind of things of convenience of living do you think of?
Distance between parking and your front door.
Whether it's yours or visitor parking?
Doesn't matter. It's all depending on where you got to park versus where you got to go. If I got to park on one end of this project and work my way around the building just to get into it, that's difficult.
When I think,
That doesn't say, welcome.
right.
You'll look down. Thank you for saying.
When I think of convenience of living, I think of, is this like in a place that everything is taken care of? My snow, everything like that. I think convenience of living, like, are things taken care of for me?
But that may go, no offense, that may go toward how the homeowners association is actually approaching versus I think maybe what we're trying to look at here is design features that accomplish what he's looking at. But I totally agree with
Oh,
what
that's
you're
okay.
saying.
Yeah, whatever you, I don't.
Gathering areas for residents so that they can come together. Both kids and adults.
Well, yeah. You were talking about convenience for where the car is relative to getting into the unit, but another convenience would be walking from one place to another in a convenient.
Paths, sidewalks, bike
Paths.
paths.
It could also mean amenities. I mean, maybe it's a planned community that has, I don't know, health center in it
Like
or
Meadow
a
Lake,
fitness
when you
center.
went to Meadow Lake and you saw
Right,
that.
are the amenities conducive to everybody's getting to, or are the amenities shoved in a corner because maybe that looks nicer off the street or something? You know, if you're the person that's on the far outside corner of the community, you've got to walk the entire way versus having things that maybe are repetitive. So the gazebo that's on some of these paths where people can just sit and have a cup of coffee in the morning, are there enough of them to make it attractive to everybody versus only the people that live on that side of the subdivision?
Did we mention visitor parking? Was that on there at all? The convenience of like, you have a visitor parking where you can park your cars?
We talked about the distance between parking, but just the fact that there is visitor parking is another one.
Sure.
Didn't notice because we were there during the daylight hours, but nighttime illumination would be interesting.
Yeah.
We missed that, but that could be very
Nighttime what?
interesting.
Nighttime.
Nighttime illumination. You know, like-
Illumination, what you're saying, I guess.
Soft lighting.
Like lights around the trees and lighting, okay.
Yeah, what is it like to, like this time of year, it's 5 in the evening and you're going to some, what are you?
That's interesting. I didn't take that you just meant that it's well lit, but that it's nicely lit.
I would only think of nicely done things. Whenever I say something, even if I don't say it.
Well, I mean,
You have to get.
Riverwoods is always dark.
Should be presumed.
Wait a minute.
Riverwoods are always dark. It's dark.
Yes.
There's no light.
Yes, and well lit is dangerous to wildlife and birds. So I don't like well-lit.
Well, maybe.
I didn't say well-lit.
Appropriate.
Gently lit, kindly lit.
Talking about uplighting and trees and, things like that. There are
Right,
different ways
that's-
to illuminate an area.
that's what I was saying.
Without having a 22 foot tall pole with.
Yeah, no, around your trees, you have little light and it's nice.
Just so you know,
That's what I took.
in our village, we have the dark sky ordinance,
That's right.
and we use downlighting in trees, not up, just so you
Yes.
know.
Yeah, I've had more arguments over the uplift trees, don't even start with that. I'm having a flashback to my Highland Park days.
The
so.
Lorax has to like it.
What about sustainability? What about designing with nature or sustainable balance with the natural environment and the neighborhood? What about
Yes,
sustainability?
yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, and yes.
Definitely.
And
Natural.
I think we should be encouraging sustainability, the use of maybe recycled materials, solar for sure,
Waterfalls.
maybe geothermal. I mean, I think we should be talking about these available technologies and should be looking at maybe model communities that use these environmental,
You don't mean like solar roofs, do you?
I
No, but
mean,
what is-
yeah, it
what
could
is the
be.
Really, you think about solar roofs? Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Why not?
okay.
I think what would be really interesting,
Interesting.
a lot of these places were built many years ago.
Yeah.
Energy standards have really changed. I don't know if you guys are seeing in your practice any effort at getting closer to the passive house standard. So you guys know what that is?
There's a
What'd you say? The
classification,
what
I
house?
don't remember.
So passive houses is this, it grew up out of Germany. It's a movement in Europe. There's now an organization in the United States that it proposes it. It sometimes, the critics say it results in ugly houses. There's a whole argument about whether the air inside is, there used to be an argument, I guess, about this. I don't know if there still is, that somehow the air is not quite as good, but they have a system. So the idea is they're super insulated and all the air is filtered and continuously cycled. And they require like a fraction to heat. So you don't need like umpty-ump solar panels. What they really rely on is sealing the envelope.
Is there not a development like that? God, if I could remember where it is, they have their own farm as well. North of us and west of us.
Curtis Lake, it's Prairie Crossing.
That's it.
Oh, Prairie Crossing.
So,
Uh-huh.
when I think of sustainability, I mean, this is an argument that's playing out, Julie, you know about this. This is playing out in the industry. If you talk to some people, there are not a lot of people who have the training to do this. That it probably increases the initial construction cost, maybe 20%. But you know what I'm saying? And I don't know where the planning community is with this in terms of, is this the wave of the future for truly sustainable? Like if you were going to create 30 or 40 or 50 homes,
Yeah.
this is the standard that.
So the catchphrases, and I added them to your idea about the passive homes, but we hear net zero development, we hear low impact development. That kind of lead ND, so there's a lot of thinking around it. I don't think it's solidified in the planning world anyway. It's not solidified into a specific thing, but the concept is definitely.
So part of the idea is that, it's one thing to put, now, you got to manufacture solar panels. Now you got to go get, something lithium or something from some other poor place. All the stuff we keep making to provide the energy, where what this is saying is let's build it from the beginning so that it doesn't need so much energy.
Right.
Does it come with your electric, for your electric car? It has like a thing right on your home. It's ready to go. Because that's really what we're thinking, right?
Well,
Energy?
it should. And these are the kind of things we should be considering. I mean, we don't even talk
Without a
about it.
doubt.
Maybe
We don't even
I'm
talk about
talking
it.
out of place because maybe Steve
No, you're
knows a
not.
lot more about this.
No, you're not. All right, those concepts have been around at least through the 70s when I first started into architecture. There were groups of architects that built just like that, and the energy costs at that time were less than $500 a year because they were super insulated. But then you get to a point where you have to go through filtration systems because you get the sick building syndrome because you don't have fresh air. And then the nation comes along with the International Energy Code, which was originally targeted to go net zero for all projects so that your cost versus your impact on the environment flattens out, and it has zero effect after you're done with your construction. They were looking at going net zero in 2030, 2035, something like that. A lot of resistance to it, but every 3 years, the state of Illinois adopts a new energy conservation code. And every year they squeeze that turn up a little more to get a little more blood out of it. And they're working toward this net zero concept, and that's good. But I don't know, 6-9 years ago, they realized all those efforts are making the buildings actually too tight. So they then backed off and said, okay, you need to have so many air changes per hour so that people aren't getting sick. I knew an architect when I worked in Oak Park years ago. He was having a great practice doing exactly what you're talking about, Bruce. And at that point in time, our values in walls were 15, and he was doing 33, 35. And he was heating a 3-story house with a little furnace this big and a bag of wood pellets. And that was the end of it. It cost people nothing to heat the home, but it was an exorbitant price to pay up front. So you got to look at what your trade-off is. I think it's going to continue to go that way, where the country is going to keep going for the energy conservation. But whether or not the community in itself should go there, it's a great concept because there's a lot of people that would buy into it and a lot of people that I think would support it. The concept of geothermal, I don't know if the area would be good enough for it based on water levels, things like that, but did an awful lot of work in my Oak Park days where people were doing things with geothermal. In fact, they took Unity Temple, probably the building that's visited by more people on this planet than any other building, originally constructed in 1902 by Frank Lloyd Wright, and they turned that to geothermal for air conditioning. It was a tremendous concept, and I was glad to be part of that. But it is a movement. It is a movement, but I don't know if we're ready yet socially to go to an entire community.
What I hear, though, is that sustainability is a priority in terms of development.
Yes,
And that it's both the site and the structure.
right.
Is what I'm going to sum up, okay?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to keep us moving because this is great. I want to get as far as we can before you all decide you've had enough of me and you want to go home. Well-organized public spaces and protected private spaces. And somebody, I forget who it was, said something about one of the things they liked was you can't really tell where the public space ended. And that was that.
Carl said that.
Somebody said that was an idea.
Steve said that.
A good way of describing it. Steve, that was your description, right? So any other thoughts about public and private space? Do developments need to have at least a little bit of private space for me as a homeowner?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Definitely.
yes.
Yes, private space is important. For sure.
That's what adds to the community feeling.
You want to feel like you're a community and not like a,
You don't want to feel like you're in a can.
commercial
you know?
spot or
Yeah, exactly. You're not in the city.
Exactly.
Okay, so a little something I can call my own. Okay, what else strikes you about this public and private open space aspect? Anything else?
Just that it has to be adequate.
It's getting, I think.
It has to be adequate and it has to feel like it belongs.
Oh,
And maybe it's a balance, maybe it's denser, whatever you want to use as a word in one place, and then you offset it with a beautiful wooded
Risk of
public space.
going back to the comment I made before, sometimes the public space. So the entryway is space, the way it's out. Driving past.
Right.
So the way. Privatizes certain buildings, privatizes the neighborhood up to the plan, which is I see here in Riverwoods with everybody in their areas, but
if this is the right place for it, but something that's important is storage space. Some of these places we drove through, it's like in the very limited space between the units, there was a bunch of junk because people didn't have any place else to put it. And when I say junk, I mean like big toys and things like that.
Between the buildings, you're saying? What do you mean?
Yeah, like behind row buildings.
Yep.
Very limited space between the two.
Okay.
And maybe there was a little patio or something, but there was, like a kiddie pool and stuff like that was just piled there.
That's the American problem right now.
Well, but that's got to do with layout and design as well. I mean, if there's one of these semi-private spaces or private spaces that's open where everybody can see it, and you put all your belongings out there, I'll not use a Jordan term, right? Then you've created this cluttered look. I hear what you're saying.
The problem is when you look at new places being built today, they're just building wherever they can and there's no space. So now you have urban living where it's very narrow and it's annoying to me. I mean, there's a perfect example is right off of Milwaukee by Apt. Do you know what I'm talking about? Right across the street.
Yep.
Yeah.
I hate that place. I'm sorry. I hope no one lives there. I apologize. But it is so narrow. It is so like you're on top of your neighbor. I hate that. I'm sorry. That's my pet peeve right there.
What are the village policies that need to be incorporated into new developments? I'll give you the easy one, right? The woodlands, right? What else? Are there other specific policies, elements of the comprehensive plan, established or sort of unwritten rules that need to be part of developments? And this grew out of us talking about woodlands, right? That's certainly part of it. Is there anything else like that?
Landscaping with natural materials,
Sorry.
landscaping with local natural materials.
That's good.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Rain gardens.
I think water, some of the water. Mhm. Right. Well, with Lexington, they wanted to get rid of a lot of that beautiful stuff, and that was a problem.
Footprint ordinances. Footprint ordinances. Yes, so that you can't,
Right. I would agree with that. Yeah. Talking about this. Good. Like it.
That's good. So this is interesting. This
That's
is
great.
more into rather than our current policies, maybe there are some things we should be adding in terms of this. Okay.
appearance review committee.
And we don't do anything with sustainability, and we should. I mean, we
We do have a requirement for recycling, a demolition.
the demolition recycling, but we have almost nothing else.
Well, you mean in terms of building codes?
Building codes or design codes, or, I mean, we just don't talk about it. It's just an empty, it's a hole. The sustainability is,
Yeah.
it's a hole.
The next one is stormwater, other than yes. But, and this is after these comments, right? Not an afterthought, which I think is another comment that was already made, right? That it's
Diversify it.
We do not have, we have the requirement in the WDO, which we incorporate, that we, have to meet stormwater requirements. And so projects have to show us that they meet stormwater requirements. What we don't have, what we achieve through kind of jawboning with the developer, is we don't have standards for how to create stormwater facilities. We know capacity that they have to create, but the standard that it has to have a 4-to-1 slope or more, that it has to have a certain kind of buffer, that it has to be shaped. All those things that we work to force Lexington to do, for example, we didn't have an ordinance behind us that said, do it that way. That was our own, and I've seen a few places that are starting to develop design standards for detention.
But it's been said before, but I think integrating the stormwater features into the design.
Which what I'm saying, that those are design.
Yeah, that's important. That it's not an afterthought or shoved off to the side or a corner, that it's part of the design and an amenity.
You know, the ordinance for Thorngate says, that you got the density bonus in Thorngate because you used the stormwater as a visual amenity in Thorngate. Do you consider that stormwater a visual amenity?
No.
No. I think.
Not really.
I think we weren't as educated back then.
No, I don't. That's funny.
Yeah, but we're better now.
Hope that we always get better.
But what I've heard kind of fits this notion that you're not an afterthought,
Right.
right? It's integrated. I'll say one of the standards that I've come to like is the idea of having native plants around the detention area for a couple of reasons. One, it's pretty. Two, it slows down the water that's going in. And three, it cleans it.
And four, it
now-
keeps the geese away.
It works.
It's now
It works.
a requirement of the WDO, actually,
Oh, good.
last 2 or 3 years.
I got two left. You got two more left in you?
Yes.
Blow through it, quickly.
Is there a motion?
Motion. No, I'm joking, but.
That's an emotion.
Emotion.
Maybe these are yeses because density not feeling like overcrowding was sort of a standard that we thought we've been hearing, right? And I'm wondering if you talked a lot about this as we talked about the examples of the tour, but is there anything else that we didn't talk about what exemplifies density not feeling like overcrowding? We talked about the courts, we talked about the design of the buildings. Is there anything else that we didn't get to that you want to add?
You okay?
Water?
That's
I've
not
got
water.
it.
Too many, you know, we were talking about Fox Meadows, is that the name of it at the beginning? You know, it's got all these places pretty tight, clustered pretty tight. Fox Meadow was the one, right off of
Use some water.
Willow, right by, and yet you didn't sense that it was dense. And it's partly how the houses are situated, nestled in the landscaping. Harewood Road Gardens, I think Lee had the same comment that the garages were all turned at an angle to the street. Again, there are all these little things that made you unaware of the density. Even though, because you didn't really know, you just felt that felt good, it felt comfortable in there without, you weren't, whatever it was doing to disguise the density, it succeeded.
Right.
No.
Yeah, that's,
And yet, numerically, it's 2 to 1. It's 2 to 1.
it's all about good design.
Yeah.
It really
I like this notion of design to disguise density. That's.
Well, I think that's huge. I definitely think you're right about that, 100%.
Townhomes, they're typically 1 or 2. Depending on your site.
Yeah, I'd almost say that 4 stories just is not, it's not going to happen.
I'm
It's
not
just a
partial to
non-
3 stories
I don't
either.
even like,
Well, it looks out of
I don't even
place.
like 3.
It looks out of place.
Yeah,
I can impose it on you just because of the scale.
It almost like almost too much commercials, but it looks like it.
Height is more open space, I get that, but I don't think height is an issue that River Woods is used to.
No, it's not.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
That's true.
And
I'm
I,
not saying height is a bad thing everywhere, but I think it's a bad thing here.
Yep.
It shouldn't be imposed.
It doesn't fit in Riverwoods is basically what you're saying.
Anything above 2 stories is problematic.
Needs to be more,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
yeah, even 3, I think.
Even 3 is,
3 depends on the design. I mean, if it's one peak that's,
if it's
you
on
know,
a
that's
hill
higher
or
than the other.
something,
Right,
if-
the problem
know-
is if your first floor is on a, 5-foot berm,
Right.
all of a sudden you're 3.5, almost 4 stories.
Right.
And that's something that
So
was,
maybe height is not how many stories, but it's above average grade. Is
Right.
how you would
Right.
define it, and then you have to define where you take the.
I
and
agree.
that's something that sort of fed its way through the tour that you took, was there were some of the developments that had kind of a half a story almost, that was just the parking.
Right.
Right, so that's nice because you don't have to look at the parking, but you've added height. So there's
That makes
balance
sense.
there too, that's. Last but not least, are there housing types that you saw or that are either particularly okay or not right?
I thought the example of the quad,
I'm sorry.
I thought the example of the quad, of the 4 units with the garages, I thought that was a particularly unattractive, kind of not organic. I didn't see a way for that to relate in a Riverwoods context.
and I think something that has all asphalt
No,
is horrible. Like
Duplex
as-
homes are very nice, or can be.
Can be, even quads
Yeah,
can be
even quads can be if they're done
done well.
acceptably.
Yeah,
That's right.
well, I mean,
Some of these we saw were quads, but they were okay.
Yeah, and that's
Some
it.
of them
Look,
were, and they were all garage.
I
some of them
think
look like
there's a
houses.
lot
So
that
it's
you
not the
can,
point of the quad, it's the quad that is basically hidden
straight.
by garages everywhere.
A straight
Right,
line,
right.
you know.
I have a friend who's in a duplex and they share a garage wall only.
Hmm.
And it's wonderful because she says that she has the privacy of a single family home,
Good.
but the tax benefits of a duplex, and it is a single story. She is 82 and she loves her home. She absolutely adores it.
Where is that?
In Florida, where
Oh.
all the old people are.
In Florida.
I'd like to, can you have her send us a picture? I'd
field
like to
trip,
see
yeah.
it.
I'm sure she's got lots of, it's magnificent.
Would you? Would you? I'd like to see it.
That's funny.
Yes, yeah,
Very nice. Very nice.
yeah, not repetitive for sure.
We don't.
I'm ready. I'm done. I can't take it. I'm tired.
Whether that be single-family, townhome, or whatever. Something as a cookie cutter stamp.
Do we have an anti-monotony code?
No, not yet. There was one written into the ordinance for Thorngate because it was so many houses at one time, but nowhere else.
good comments.
The last word is yours. This has been really helpful. I think we'll find that as we move forward, this kind of becomes the basis of that. Like I said, writing zoning is easier once you know what we're shooting for, and this will get refined, and the folks that are here, and the folks that you have to do the tours, I'm sure. So this is a great start. I thank you for your patience and your time, and we'll keep going.
Oh, we thank you
Thank
for
you.
your organization.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been a great exercise.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks
Michael.
for the tours. That was outstanding. That you
I
really-
will pass that along. Thank you.
Very good.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I guess we can move on. I have no comments, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in
my
favor, I assume?
Aye.
Any
Aye, aye,
opposed?
aye.
All right, have a
Bye-bye.
good evening, folks. We meet again on November the 2nd.
And they never drive again if I can't get an appointment to get a driving test, so.
No, I'm glad you did that. That worked out well.